First at 5, a massive fire at a North Portland landmark. Tonight, investigators are working to determine what sparked the blaze at the old Farmer's Barn Tavern in the Kenton neighborhood. Good evening, I'm Laurel Porter.
And I'm David Molko. The vacant building, which was a very familiar sight for fire crews, was all but destroyed. And as Mike Benner reports, neighbors have been complaining about this property for years.
Longtime North Portland resident William Lochner snaps a photo of the old Farmer's Barn Tavern, or what's left of it.
Yeah, there's nothing left, is there? The sign is, we got to save the sign. Those old signs like that, man.
Certainly impressive. Like the Wednesday night fire that ripped through the building at the corner of North Denver and Lombard. Just look at the video. The first firefighters on scene quickly realized they had their hands full.
Upon arrival, we had heavy smoke, charged smoke pouring out of the structure, cracks in doors. We opened up, saw that it was going to be a difficult fire to address by going interior.
Fire crews went defensive instead and eventually got a handle on the fire. The 8th at this very property in the last 12 months.
Not surprising at all with all the non-ideal, nefarious activities that have been going on there.
This man, who lives in the area, says squatters are to blame. He also says neighbors have been complaining for a long time, something city officials aren't disputing.
We've gone on and investigated every one of those complaints.
Ken Ray of the city's Bureau of Development Services says the city saw some clear violations and told the property owner, identified as Farmer's Barn LLC, to make changes. But Ray says that was easier said than done.
In recent months, we've had less success getting the owner to engage on improving the property. So we applied for and received what's called an administrative warrant to go onto the site ourselves and secure the property and clean it up.
That was in February. And later that month, we're told, the property owner applied for a permit to demolish the vacant building. But by the looks of the old Farmer's Barn Tavern after this week's massive fire, a full-blown demo may not be necessary after all. Instead, William Lochner says, maybe this is an opportunity to collect some mementos.
I'd like to put some of the bricks in my backyard. It'd be kind of neat, you know.
Regardless of what sparked this fire, it is clear that a landmark in the Kenton neighborhood has been destroyed. Investigators are asking anyone with information about what happened here to pick up the phone and give them a call. Reporting in North Portland, I'm Mike Benner for KGW News.
Oregon is taking action in response to a federal judge's ruling that could compromise access to a common abortion drug. Today, Governor Tina Kotek announced the state has partnered with OHSU to secure a 3-year supply of mifepristone. She's also directing the OHA to work with the DOJ to protect reproductive health care in Oregon. Earlier this month, a federal judge in Texas ruled in a lawsuit to suspend the FDA's longtime approval of mifepristone. So far, the Supreme Court has blocked that decision from taking effect until at least tomorrow night. On the Texas judge's ruling, Governor Kotek said, quote, "This meritless lawsuit is part of a larger campaign to ban abortion in every state, including those with legal protections for abortion access."
We're taking a closer look this evening at a move by Oregon Democrats who want to amend the state constitution. It has to do with abortion, same-sex marriage, and gender-affirming care. Evan Watson is in the newsroom. Evan, the state already has strong protections in all of these areas, so why this new proposal?
Well, David, this proposal is a reaction to legislation in other states and, of course, the Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe v. Wade and the federal right to an abortion just last year. Oregon's state constitution already protects the equality of rights on the basis of sex. Democrats are now proposing to add the right to abortion, sexual orientation, and gender-affirming care into the state constitution.
Oregon law, we have really strong laws for LGBTQ folks and healthcare access in women in Oregon, but we have to pay attention to what's happening nationally right now.
Blair Stimvik is a communication manager for Basic Rights Oregon, a group that's advocating for this proposal. If state lawmakers pass this proposed amendment, Oregonians would vote on it in November 2024.
We've seen time and again that Oregon values really do align with this ballot measure. Oregonians really value the freedom to be who you are, marry who you love, and get the healthcare access that you and your doctor, see as necessary. And so we feel good about getting this passed now so that we don't have to worry so much in the future.
Stenvik says the Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade and federal abortion rights was a catalyst for this proposed amendment. They also point to laws being passed in other states, such as Idaho banning gender-affirming care for trans youth earlier this month. This proposal would also remove language that bans gay marriage from the Oregon state constitution.
We've known, for years that the Oregon Constitution does still say that marriage is between one man and one woman. Of course, that doesn't stand as law right now, thanks to Supreme Court cases. But as I mentioned, that could be overturned, and then marriage equality would be an open question in Oregon, which I know is really scary for a lot of LGBTQ plus folks who call the state home.
Republicans in the legislature have said these constitutional protections could have broader implications, such as potentially setting a right for minors to access abortion without parental knowledge. Oregon law currently allows minors 15 and older to provide consent for medical procedures. And supporters say this ballot measure wouldn't affect that. We're still a long way away from a potential vote, though, which could come next November. David.
Thank you, Evan. Well, Washington will soon become the 10th state in the nation to ban the sale of assault weapons. Before the governor signs it, customers have been flocking to gun stores. That is because the legislation does not ban possession, just further sales, meaning current gun owners won't be impacted. So the bill covers assault firearms like AR-style rifles. Supporters in Washington have been fighting for this for years.
I was in Olympia the day that it was initially voted off the Senate floor. That was just an incredible and moving moment of history. I will genuinely never forget what that evening felt like.
Well, supporters say the measure will reduce the number of mass shootings. Opponents point to mental health rather than firearms. The bill is likely to face a legal challenge, which is what's happening with Oregon's Measure 114 right now. Voters approved that last fall. That includes a ban on the sale of high-capacity magazines, but it's essentially on pause as the measure faces both state and federal challenges. The next hearing in Harney County is scheduled for June, a trial scheduled for September. Oregon lawmakers are also working on a bill similar to Measure 114. They held a public hearing late last month. We will keep you posted on any updates on that effort.
A big change to 911 response in Clark County. Starting next month, if you call 911 for a medical problem, it may be a triage nurse that helps you out. Tim Gordon joins us from Vancouver to explain why. Tim?
Hi, Laurel. Yeah, well, a lot of emergency calls come in for medical here to CRESA, which is the dispatch center here in Clark County. So instead of sending ambulances and paramedics to those calls that really aren't that much of an emergency, they'll be sending a triage nurse on the phone to talk instead. So here it is by the numbers. And they've been climbing fast the past few years. Clark County is up to 58,000 medical calls annually, but 14,000 of them were not considered life-threatening emergency calls. So now American Medical Response, which runs ambulance units up here, is providing emergency care trained nurses who specialize in phone triage to take those less serious medical calls. Dispatchers here will send callers to the nurses for a more in-depth look and also help getting those callers to urgent care clinics or wherever they might need to go. The idea is to get them the help they need while lowering the stress on an overburdened system.
Because oftentimes we won't have the ambulances to send, and so this is going to make it so that we have the resource for the high emergent calls that we get.
If we could take those patients and divert them to the appropriate level of care, it saves the patient cost, it benefits the EMS system and makes those resources available for the more critical calls.
So call 911 if you need to, for sure, but on the other end of the spectrum, if you're calling for medical advice, well, 911 is not the right number. Call a local provider or a clinic for that. So this nurse system kicks off May 16th up here, and AMR has nurses who are ready to go. They're already using this system in 10 other states, and they say it is working well. I'll send it back to you in the studio.
Yeah, really important context there. Tim Gordon in Vancouver. Thank you, Tim. Got some new video this evening after a grand jury found an Oregon State trooper's actions were justified when he shot and killed a suspect. Now, this was along I-5 outside Salem back on April 10th. Witnesses say the suspect, identified as 31-year-old Felipe Amezcua Monzo, was pointing a gun at vehicles, including the driver of a semi-truck. Now, authorities have released Trooper Andrew Tuttle's body cam video. We're going to play you a short portion here, but pause the video before shots were fired.
Get on the ground! Get on the ground! Get on the ground now! Get on the ground!
All right, you hear the trooper shouting at the suspect there. Seconds later, you hear what appears to be both incoming and outgoing gunfire. There is a lot to break down in the video, including the trooper taking cover and reloading and continuing to shout at that suspect. Eventually, Tuttle did shoot and kill Monzo. The trooper was also injured, though did not require medical attention. Our Catherine Cook is reviewing the video as we speak. She will have much more at 6:30 and tonight on KGW News at 11.
Portland police say vandalism in the city is getting worse. A new report shows officers received more than 1,300 complaints about it last month alone. That's 400 more than last year and triple the number in 2019. One of the latest cases happened in the Pearl District yesterday morning. Someone slashed the tires of at least 4 cars on Northwest Park between Burnside and Cooch. Neighbors tell us they saw several more damaged cars earlier in the day.
This morning, I seen a couple of individuals looking fairly frantic and changing some tires. I didn't really grab the scope of what was going on at first.
And this is a problem we've seen before. In October, someone slashed tires on more than 50 cars in the Roseway Heights neighborhood near Northeast 72nd. PPB says if this happens to you, file a report right away.